Imagine waking up every morning with the quiet confidence that no matter what happens today, everything will work out in your favor. Not because life is perfect, but because you expect it to be. This simple assumption has the power to transform your entire experience of life. When you act as if everything always works out for you, you shift from fear to faith, from doubt to certainty, from waiting to knowing. You begin to live from a state of fulfillment rather than lack. You no longer chase outcomes, you become the person for whom success is natural. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. What you consistently assume to be true becomes your reality. When your inner conversation is filled with confidence, calm, and expectation of good, life reorganizes itself to match those beliefs. Doors open. Solutions appear, opportunities flow, not by force but by alignment. Instead of asking, what if things go wrong, begin to say, everything is always working in my favor. Even when challenges arise, hold the inner knowing that they are temporary and purposeful. When you stay faithful to this assumption, obstacles lose their power and become stepping stones. To live this way is to walk with inner certainty. You act, speak, think, and decide as someone who already trusts the outcome. You do not beg life for success, you expect it, and life responds to expectation. When doubts arise, gently return to the feeling of fulfillment. Feel relief, feel gratitude, feel certainty. These feelings impress your mind, and your mind impresses reality. So choose today to embody this powerful truth. Everything always works out for me. Carry it in your thoughts. Speak it in your words. Live it in your actions. Persist in it until it becomes your natural state. And when you do, you will discover that life has no choice but to confirm what you have assumed all along. Because the moment you act as if everything works out for you, it truly does. Most people wait for proof before they believe. They wait for results before they feel confident. They wait for success before they act successful. But the truth is, every meaningful achievement in life begins the opposite way. It starts with an assumption. It starts with a belief formed before there is any visible evidence. When you assume success before it appears, you activate a powerful force inside yourself that reshapes your actions, your decisions, and ultimately your outcomes. Think about the way we usually approach challenges. We look at the situation, analyze the odds, calculate the risks, and then decide how much effort to invest. If the chances seem low, we hold back. If success seems uncertain, we hesitate. But when you assume success from the very beginning, everything changes. You no longer operate from fear or limitation. You operate from expectation, and expectation is not passive hope. It is an active state of mind that directs your behavior. When you truly believe something will work out, you show up differently. Your body language changes. Your tone of voice becomes steadier. Your choices become bolder. You take actions you would normally avoid. You speak up when you might have stayed silent. You try again when you might have quit. This is not because you suddenly became more talented or more skilled, but because your belief unlocked the potential that was already inside you. Belief always comes before behavior, and behavior always comes before results. This is the natural order. Yet many people reverse it. They say, once I see results, I'll believe. But those who achieve extraordinary outcomes say, I believe, therefore I act, and therefore I see results. This is the difference between those who wait and those who lead their own lives. When you assume success, you also change how you interpret setbacks. Instead of seeing them as signs of failure, you see them as part of the process. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this preparing me for? This shift in perspective keeps you moving forward when others stop. It builds resilience, patience, and long-term focus. And over time, this mindset compounds into remarkable progress. There is also a deeper reason why assuming success works. The human mind is designed to look for evidence that supports what it already believes. When you believe things will work out, your mind begins to notice opportunities, solutions, and connections that you would otherwise ignore. You become more alert, more creative, and more adaptable. You start seeing possibilities where before you saw problems. In this way, belief doesn't just change how you feel, it changes what you see. This is why two people can face the same situation and experience completely different outcomes. One expects difficulty and finds it. The other expects success and discovers paths forward. The circumstances may be identical, but the inner assumption determines the direction. Assuming success does not mean ignoring reality or pretending that challenges do not exist. It means choosing a perspective that empowers you rather than limits you. It means saying, I don't know exactly how this will work out, but I trust that it will. This trust creates calm in uncertainty and courage in action. When you live this way, you become consistent, you stop starting and stopping, you stop doubting every step. You build momentum, and momentum, once created, is incredibly powerful. Small actions taken with belief, repeated daily, lead to massive transformation over time. So the next time you stand at the edge of uncertainty, choose to assume success, choose to believe before you see. Let that belief shape how you think, how you act, and how you persist. Because in the end, the greatest breakthroughs do not come from chance or luck. They come from the quiet decision to trust that things will work out and to live as if they already are. Most people live their lives moving toward what they want, always chasing, always striving, always waiting for the moment when they can finally say, I made it. They set goals in the future and place their happiness, confidence, and peace of mind at the finish line. But there is a powerful shift that happens when you stop living toward the end and start living from the end. When you act as the person you want to become before the results appear, you collapse the distance between who you are and who you are becoming. Living from the end begins with a simple question. If I already had what I desire, how would I think? How would I feel? And how would I behave? This question changes everything. It moves your focus away from struggle and into alignment. Instead of asking, how do I get there? You start asking, who must I be now? And when you answer that question honestly, your actions naturally begin to reflect your future reality. When you live toward the end, your behavior is driven by lack. You are constantly aware of what you do not have. This creates tension, impatience, and pressure. You rush, you force, you compare yourself to others. But when you live from the end, your behavior is driven by fulfillment. You operate with calm confidence. You make decisions from clarity, not desperation. You take purposeful action, not frantic effort. Consider how someone who already sees themselves as successful carries themselves. They walk with confidence. They speak with certainty. They manage their time wisely. They treat others with respect. They do not wait for permission to act like leaders. They embody leadership, and because of this, people respond to them differently. Opportunities naturally find them, trust builds around them, their presence itself becomes influential. This is the power of identity. We do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our identity. If you see yourself as someone who is still trying, you will continue to struggle. But if you see yourself as someone who is becoming, your actions will align with growth. Identity is not something you earn at the finish line, it is something you claim at the starting line. When you act from the end, challenges no longer shake you. You expect them. You understand that they are part of the process, not a sign that you are on the wrong path. This understanding creates emotional stability. You do not overreact to temporary failures or setbacks. Instead, you stay focused on the bigger picture. You remain steady, knowing that every step, even the difficult ones, is moving you forward. This approach also transforms your daily habits. When you see yourself as already disciplined, productive, confident, or successful, you naturally adopt the habits that support that identity. You no longer rely on motivation, which is unpredictable and short-lived. Instead, you rely on consistency, which is built on self-image. You show up every day not because you feel like it, but because it is simply who you are. Living from the end also changes how you relate to time. You stop rushing, you stop panicking about deadlines, you develop patience and persistence. You understand that meaningful results require sustained effort. Because you are no longer desperate for quick wins, you are willing to invest in long-term progress. This patience allows you to build something lasting rather than something temporary. Ultimately, living from the end is about trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust in the unseen unfolding of events. You may not know exactly how things will happen, but you remain faithful to the outcome. This faith gives you the courage to take bold steps and the humility to learn along the way. When you embody the person you wish to become, life begins to respond accordingly. People treat you differently, opportunities align, circumstances shift, not because of luck, but because your inner state has changed. And when your inner state changes, your outer world must follow. So stop waiting to arrive, start becoming now. Act as if your future is already unfolding in your favor. Live from the end, and you will discover that the journey itself becomes the proof. Every single moment of your life is shaped by a conversation, not the one you have with others, but the one you have with yourself. This inner dialogue is constant, quiet, and powerful. It interprets events, assigns meaning, and decides how you respond. Over time, it becomes the blueprint for your reality. What you repeatedly tell yourself, you eventually come to believe. And what you believe, you eventually become. Most people are unaware of how much time they spend speaking negatively to themselves. They replay past mistakes, they anticipate future failures, they criticize their own abilities, they question their worth. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, unmotivated, or discouraged. The answer lies in the story they are telling themselves every day. Because before there is action, there is thought, and before there is thought, there is belief. Your inner dialogue shapes your expectations. If you constantly tell yourself that life is hard, that people cannot be trusted, that success is rare, or that you are not good enough, your mind begins to treat these ideas as facts. You start noticing evidence to support them. You filter your experiences through these assumptions. Over time, these beliefs solidify, and your life begins to reflect them. But the opposite is also true. When your inner dialogue is intentional, empowering, and positive, it reshapes your entire perception. When you consistently tell yourself that opportunities are everywhere, that you are capable of growth, and that things work out for you, your mind starts searching for proof of these ideas. You become more alert, more optimistic, and more resilient. Your confidence grows not because your circumstances suddenly changed, but because your interpretation of them did. This is why two people can experience the same event and walk away with completely different conclusions. One sees failure, the other sees feedback. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. The difference is not in the event itself, but in the story they tell themselves about it. And that story determines what they do next. Your inner dialogue also influences your emotional state. Fear, anxiety, confidence, and peace are all rooted in thought. When your mind is filled with doubt and worry, your body responds with tension and stress. But when your mind is filled with trust and expectation of good, your body relaxes. You move through life with greater ease, clarity, and energy. This emotional shift improves your performance, your relationships, and your overall well-being. One of the most powerful changes you can make is to become aware of your self-talk. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself when things go wrong. Notice the tone, notice the words. Are they harsh? Are they discouraging? Are they limiting? Then ask yourself if you would ever speak to someone you care about in the same way. Most of the time, the answer is no. When you begin to replace negative inner dialogue with constructive and supportive thoughts, everything changes. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," you say, "I am learning." Instead of saying, "This always goes wrong," you say, This is working out in ways I may not yet see. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you say, I am becoming better every day. These shifts may seem small, but their impact is profound. Over time, your inner dialogue becomes your identity. You start to see yourself as capable, adaptable, and worthy. This new self-image influences how you act. You take more risks, you speak more confidently, you persist longer. And as your actions change, your results follow. This process is not about blind optimism or ignoring reality. It is about choosing a perspective that empowers you. It is about training your mind to look for solutions rather than problems, growth rather than limitation, and opportunity rather than fear. It is about taking responsibility for the story you tell yourself and choosing one that moves you forward. When you master your inner dialogue, you master your direction. Because the most important conversation you will ever have is the one that happens within. And when that conversation becomes one of belief, trust, and expectation of good, your life begins to transform from the inside out. Fear is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior. It keeps us alert, protects us from danger, and helps us survive. But it also holds us back. It stops us from speaking up, from taking risks, from trying again, and from believing in something greater than what we can immediately see. While fear is natural, living under its control is a choice, and that is where faith enters. Faith is not about blind optimism or ignoring reality. It is about trusting the process even when the outcome is uncertain. It is about choosing calm over panic, courage over hesitation, and hope over doubt. When you place faith over fear, you reclaim your power. You move forward not because you are certain of success, but because you trust that whatever happens will serve your growth. Fear focuses on what might go wrong. Faith focuses on what could go right. Fear narrows your vision, making the world seem small and dangerous. Faith expands your perspective, allowing you to see possibilities where others see limitations. This difference in perspective changes how you make decisions. Under fear, you choose safety. Under faith, you choose progress. Every significant achievement in history required someone to act with faith before there was proof. They stepped into uncertainty, they risked failure, they faced criticism, and yet they moved forward because they believed in something beyond their immediate circumstances. They trusted an idea, a vision, or a purpose that had not yet taken form. When you choose faith over fear, you also change how you experience challenges. Instead of seeing them as threats, you begin to see them as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. This does not mean challenges become easy, but they become meaningful, and meaning gives strength. It helps you endure discomfort, uncertainty, and delay without losing your sense of direction. Fear often disguises itself as logic. It says, be realistic. It says, don't take chances. It says, wait until you're ready. But readiness is rarely a feeling that arrives before action. Most of the time, readiness is the result of action. Faith pushes you to begin before you feel prepared, trusting that clarity and confidence will follow. When faith becomes your foundation, your emotional state stabilizes, you are less reactive, you are not easily shaken by temporary setbacks or external opinions. You develop inner steadiness. This calm presence influences the people around you. They feel safer, more inspired, and more willing to trust. In this way, faith becomes contagious. It spreads through your words, your energy, and your example. Faith also transforms patience. Instead of feeling frustrated by delays, you learn to trust timing. You understand that growth cannot be rushed and that meaningful progress often happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible. This patience allows you to stay committed long after others have given up, and persistence, guided by faith, is one of the most powerful forces for change. Choosing faith does not mean the absence of fear. Fear will still appear, doubt will still whisper, uncertainty will still exist, but faith gives you the strength to move forward anyway. It teaches you to acknowledge fear without obeying it, to feel uncertainty without being paralyzed by it, to stand in the unknown with courage and grace. Ultimately, faith over fear is a daily decision. It is a commitment to trust yourself, trust the journey, and trust the unfolding of life. It is the quiet confidence that no matter what happens, you will adapt, learn, and grow. And with this mindset, even the most difficult paths become meaningful journeys. When you choose faith, you choose possibility. You choose expansion. You choose progress. And in doing so, you step into a life guided not by limitation, but by hope, courage, and unwavering belief in what is yet to come. Consistency is the quiet force behind every lasting transformation. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It rarely receives recognition in the moment. Yet, it is the reason small efforts grow into great achievements and simple ideas turn into powerful realities. When you remain consistent in your assumptions, especially the belief that things are working in your favor, you create momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. Most people start with enthusiasm. They feel inspired, motivated, and hopeful. They commit to new habits, new goals, and new beliefs. But when results do not appear quickly, doubt begins to creep in, energy fades, discipline weakens. And soon, consistency is replaced by hesitation. What once felt exciting now feels difficult. This is the moment when persistence matters most. Consistency of assumption means holding the same inner belief regardless of external conditions. It means choosing to trust even when evidence is lacking. It means staying faithful to your vision even when progress seems slow. This kind of consistency is not built on emotion because emotions change. It is built on commitment, which remains steady. When you consistently assume success, your mind begins to accept it as truth. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity builds belief. Over time, what once felt like hope becomes certainty. This certainty influences your actions. You show up daily, you make better choices, you stay focused. And these actions, repeated again and again, create results. Think of consistency as planting seeds. When you place a seed in the soil, nothing appears to happen at first. Beneath the surface, however, roots are forming, strength is developing, and growth is preparing. If you dig up the seed every day to check on it, you interrupt the process. In the same way, when you constantly question your assumptions, you disrupt their ability to take root. Trust and patience allow growth to occur naturally. Consistency also builds emotional resilience. When you commit to a belief and persist in it, you become less reactive to setbacks. You no longer interpret temporary failure as permanent defeat. Instead, you see it as part of a larger process. This perspective keeps you balanced and steady, allowing you to continue moving forward with clarity and confidence. Over time, consistency shapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who persists. You become dependable, disciplined, and self-trusting. This new identity strengthens your self-respect and confidence. And when you trust yourself, you become more willing to take bold steps because you know you will follow through. Consistency also compounds. Small, repeated actions and beliefs accumulate, creating exponential growth. A single positive thought may seem insignificant. A single day of effort may feel small, but over weeks, months, and years, these moments add up. They reshape your mindset, your habits, and ultimately your life. What once seemed impossible becomes natural. One of the greatest challenges to consistency is distraction. The world constantly offers new ideas, new methods, and new shortcuts. While learning is valuable, constantly shifting focus weakens progress. True growth requires commitment to a chosen path. It requires the patience to stay long enough for results to appear. When you remain consistent in your assumption that things are working out, you create inner stability. This stability becomes your anchor in times of uncertainty. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond thoughtfully. Instead of panicking, you remain calm. Instead of quitting, you persist, and in this state, solutions emerge more easily and opportunities become clearer. Consistency is not about perfection, it is about persistence. There will be days of doubt, fatigue, and frustration. What matters is returning to your belief again and again. Each return strengthens your commitment and deepens your trust. In the end, consistency of assumption is an act of self-respect. It is the decision to believe in your potential and honor your vision. When you persist in the feeling of success, when you repeatedly choose trust over doubt, you allow your inner world to reshape your outer reality. And slowly, quietly, powerfully, what you once assumed becomes what you live.